Stick your derrick in a hole and roll out the barrels, cause we're getting crude.
Roll out the barrel. We got the blues on the run.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory. Today's episode will probably be, but is not meant to be, my most controversial one to date as we cover hot-button topics in international politics framed against gaming's most hot-button title. So cram yourselves into your Speedo because we're taking a dip in the life stream. What can be said about Final Fantasy VII that hasn't already been beaten to death 100 times over by countless fan sites? Nothing. Good, done, roll credits. But seriously, no one ever really looks at how much fantasy is actually in the Final Fantasy games, and you may be surprised by how realistic the 7th installment actually is. For the uninitiated, here's what you need to know. Lifestream in the game is spirit energy, the soul of the planet, existing underground in a form that looks a whole lot like my computer's default screensaver. Without getting too detailed, it's basically a collection of souls from all plants and animals that have lived and died on the planet. Mako is the name given to Lifestream in its liquid form, and it contains huge amounts of concentrated energy that a company named Shinra learned to harvest and convert into electricity. Shinra then gained a monopoly over this technique and basically took over the world, politically and economically, by being the sole provider of the planet's power. That's right, a world-dominating utility company. And they don't even own the waterworks. Evil power companies. Oh, Square, you and your imagination. Or not. Lifestream, an underground source of energy made from dead plants and animals, sounds a whole lot like fossil fuels to me. Coal, gas, and petroleum, which are found underground and are made from compressed plant and animal matter, accounting for around 86% of the world's total energy needs. And of those, none is more precious than oil, black gold, Texas tea, which handles 1/3 of the world's energy consumption, topping 50% in some regions. Imagine, if you will, the following. Oil companies suddenly withholding their supplies. A world without oil. We would be crippled as cars would rust with empty gas tanks along the streets, and the 50,000 planes in the air each day would be grounded, ceasing all trade and shipping. Products made from oil, which includes everything from makeup to medicine and anything plastic, would be no more. Food wouldn't make it into the cities, and the world would grow dark as there would be no means to transport coal, whose burning produces 40% of the world's electricity. In short, a world in chaos. It's an interesting hypothetical scenario, but in the game, Shinra has complete political domination, and real-world electric companies aren't going to go and usurp the government anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that governments can't usurp the power companies. Some reports say that only 7% of the world's estimated oil and gas reserves are held by private companies, leaving over 90% to companies owned and operated by the governments of their respective nations. Of the top 20 oil-producing companies, 16 are controlled by national governments, including the world's most valuable company, Saudi Aramco, with an estimated value between $2.2 and $7 trillion. Can you imagine if a group of these oil-rich countries got together in an alliance to dictate who got the oil? Well, you don't have to, because that organization exists. It's called OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. The 10 largest oil companies in the world are all members, and if they don't like your country, they don't have to sell to you. That's what happened in 1973 when the quote-unquote oil weapon was first used against the US. Angered by the Western world's support of Israel, the Arab nations of OPEC formed a separate group to put the squeeze on us, making gas prices spike from, hold on to your hats, 38 cents to 55 cents per gallon. Watch out! But seriously, a big deal at the time. It caused a nationwide panic and gas rationing, so much so that Oregon had to cancel the hanging of Christmas lights. Now that's desperation. In other words, OPEC acts as a cartel, a group of competing companies working together to fix prices, marketing, and production on a global scale. And here's the other thing. You know how Shinra formed its own cities like Midgar, built its own military, and used its tremendous wealth to pay for experiments with genetics? Well, that's not a fantasy either. Saudi Aramco Aramco has built multiple compounds where its employees live. Some are able to hold up to 11,000 residents. And with nearly half of Iran's national budget coming solely from oil and gas revenue, any soldier or scientific discovery coming from the country belongs to some extent to the oil company. So as Uncle Ben said, with great petrol comes great responsibility. In short, I'm not a political person at all, absorbed in my raptures, foresides, and fortresses of peril. And ignoring political alarmists and claims of wars for oil, we've seen today that there's definitely a lot of money and power tied to energy. Some estimates floating around the web say that we have 40 years of oil left in the world. 40 years! It seems improbable to me, but even still, just imagine it. Shinra gained total control when they were the only ones left with a means of producing energy. Wouldn't it be the same for the last ones controlling the oil supply? Yeah, the Final Fantasy series has come up with some bizarre stuff. I mean, come on, a gun sword? And the gun doesn't work? That's stupid. But the take-home message today is that the story of Final Fantasy VII might not always remain just a fantasy. Unless, of course, the meteor business comes true, which it's supposed to in 2036, so we could all be dead long before oil companies get to us. Anyway, it's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
It's something that I feel when I eat a mega meal. I know it's working fine when I see a neon sign. Left me jumping red, I'm a human power plant. Moves like waves in the sea, I'm talking energy. Stand out in the sun, there's a burning sensation. Cranking energy that we call radiation. Plug in this mic, get electricity. Changes its form, but it's still energy. Energy makes things go. Energy makes things run. Energy makes things move. Energy makes things